This is Emeka Ezra, and this is the Redeemed podcast where we talk about our past lives before we met Christ. I hope no one is listening, but if you are, please keep it to yourself. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of The Redeemed. As you can see, we are in the kitchen and we're about to cook, right? I'm about to cook with my men, with my guys, with my friends. On my left is podcast, movie director extraordinaire, and on my right is Mr. Samuel Ajayi, right? Political analyst.
Not Samuel Ajayi crowd.
But we are going to have a discussion. Obviously, it's the Redeemed. I'm asking, what's a movie director and a political analyst doing on the Redeemed? You know, isn't the Redeemed about addiction? Well, yes, it is. But we're going to be shifting it. We're going to be taking it a notch higher. We're going to be talking about something more rich, and it's something that's been on my heart for a long time. Obviously, we're going to be talking about stories, but mainly we're going to be talking about how it affects men a lot. But before then, I want to remind you to subscribe, right, on whatever platform you're listening to, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, whatever. Guys, we need you to subscribe. And like I want to remind you, we have a newsletter I write every week to you guys. So I want you to have my email address. I want to have your email address. I want to write sweet things to you. So go to the description below, subscribe, and let us hear from podcast. Let me start from podcast to let's hear who he is from him. So, man of God.
I think you said it already.
I told you already. No. How about
movie director, producer? That's fine.
Movie director, producer. That's all. That's all. Podcast. Ahmed, tell us, who are you?
You can check Google.
Can you see? So come on, tell us who's podcast?
I'm a filmmaker. I make movies. And what else is there to know? Okay. That's all I do.
That's all you do?
Yeah.
That's not what he does. That's what he does. Man of God, talk to us.
Thank you. Let me follow the lead of PC. So yes, I'm a political analyst.
You're a political analyst?
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
That's all I do.
That's all. I want to tell you guys something. I met these guys, the way I met them, and the way they became like really important people in my heart. One day I was going to, even though I'd known podcast, since the university days, he did great and mighty things. Let me start by that.
Wow.
He's also an author, right? I met this man of God, this is the way he imprinted himself in my heart.
Mm.
We went to Nile University together, right? That was the first time I was going to Nile University for the Redeemed. I was going to talk about addiction. And as I was ministering, and it was getting a little bit cumbersome. Everybody, I said, "Oh, man of God, please help me." Because the Holy Spirit just said, "Why won't you ask podcast to help you?" I said, "Man of God, please help me." And I did not know anything about like podcast being a man of, forgive me, being a man of God, I was laying hands on people and they were falling under the power. And I turned back and I saw podcast laying hands and people fell under the power. I said, no wonder, Holy Spirit. I didn't know that. It shocked me. Let me keep it. Let me leave it there.
You thought I was worldly.
I thought I was worldly. God have mercy. Mistake. So, for Samuel, for Samuel, right? Our conversations, we always have rich conversations. For Samuel, it was the fact that I was talking to somebody, and it's not every time you meet someone that is really into theology. Oh my God, we've had so many rich conversations concerning theology. It has a special place in my heart. I met some of Samuel's friends. I met some of Samuel's friends on his wedding day, and all of them, or some of them, or all of the people I met we are all theology buffs. And I was like, what's going on? I'm telling the truth. Ask him. people. So it was really interesting. But today we want to talk about like men addiction, and I don't know if you've ever heard my story. I had like I had an issue with addiction, which I know a lot of men deal with. Right? Which I know a lot of men deal with, in the sense of they have this pornography addiction or this lust addiction. I've heard people say that men are attracted by what they see, women are attracted by what they hear. You know, you read books of men are from, is it Earth or Mars, women are from Venus, or I don't know. I don't know. But there's this indoctrination right now, I think that's what I'm going to use, the indoctrination. I was talking to a lady, Abiola, on one of our former episodes, and previous episodes, and I was telling her that I was speaking to the Holy Spirit at a point. It was the time I was speaking to the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit was telling me how the devil over some time indoctrinated ladies, girls. And I was telling her that he told me that women, if you're going to see a Gen Z lady, right, Gen Z ladies, maybe 5 of them, 4 of them probably have had same-sex attraction, one way or the other. And this is not saying that they acted upon it, but they've had it. So, and the Lord was now telling me that this is the same thing that was going to happen to men, right? Or this is what's happening to men at the moment. There's an indoctrination happening. And truth be told, there are a lot of men that come to me asking for help, right? When it comes to addiction, when it comes to whatever addiction, basically. And I'm having this conversation with you all, not because you are perfect men, in the sense that you've not gone through these things, but I know from the little I've heard of your stories, you are men that have gone through these things and conquered. You're quality men, right?
Glory to God.
Glory to God. Let's talk. I want to hear your story, man of God. Your story.
My story. Mm-hmm. So now, when you say I want to hear your story. It feels like, because like it's a long list of stories specifically. Like,
no, it's not specific. I'm talking about your journey. Your journey as a young man. Your journey as a young man, probably with addiction, probably with things that did not please God, and how for me, I've always been that good boy that was doing bad things. Nobody knew. Mm-hmm. You understand?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I think the first thing that usually sticks out to me was that I'm a preacher's son.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, of course. My dad is a preacher, and I grew up in church. And it's very exciting when you have that conversation. You tell people that my dad is the pastor and things like that, and there's just this expectation of perfection that is bestowed upon you. By virtue of that, we don't miss any church day. Sunday, midweek, any church day, and sometimes even Saturday. So I have to be very honest, I didn't always like it. But, that was my context while I was growing up.
Was he a present dad?
Yes. My dad is a very present dad, actually. And, I always say it this way, that there are things that people say now that people mention as key things that I can't relate with. Especially as a person, as a guy, he says stuff like, oh, working in the kitchen. I don't understand that, because my mom didn't treat me and my sister the same. She didn't treat us like we are different. Whenever she was going into the kitchen, she wanted me to be there. I don't know if she was a feminist or anything at heart, but that was just our own process, right? And same with my grandma. So my parents, my mom, my grandma, I've always been around very, very strong women. So it kind of shapes, how I view the world, and so present dad, my dad is always present. My dad, if he's not in school, when he's a teacher, he's not teaching and he's back home, right? In the evening by 4 p.m. max, my dad is at home. We are sitting together in the parlor, we are watching TV or listening to the radio. And by evening, if he wants to take a stroll to his friend's house, it's a stone throw from our own place. And then we'll go together, can go with him and he can come up. But I didn't have that concept that my dad was not around. It just wasn't something that registered in my mind. He was always present.
So how did they spoil you? Let's do that one.
But you see, the thing is that context different, right? So for me, I don't have. Let me give you like a synopsis of my growing up. So even though my parents were very around, even though I had playmates that we lived in the same house, who didn't have as much oversight. So that one was a way that, okay, you could definitely get people to, influence your own children. I kind of understand it. We lived in a house and, you had like 4 or 5 families living in the same house. Some of them, their parents are not so around, don't have the same values. Of course, you always have time to play, and because your parents are not going to hover over you every time. So you're going to have experiences that you may not be able to share with your parents. And so that's, for me, are the first steps towards getting to know all of these things. And of course, you have to know that even with all of these things, you also have school. When you go to school, you play with in school, you have friends in school. Many of them, again, you're surrounded by so many things. And necessarily, I want to also correct the notion. Presence does not mean overarching influence or induction of values. Yeah. There's this concept where African parents can be very present. They can know so much about you, but they are only thinking about it from the context of, are you going to school? Are you coming to church with me? We're not really having a conversation to the sense to know exactly what's going on with you. So even though you may have a very present parent, right, you may still not be getting that deliberate indoctrination, besides the fact that, okay, yeah, you go to church, you go to Sunday school, you go to, you are present in service, and they always drag you along, which is a great thing, by the way. And this is not throwing stones to my parents. They did a wonderful, fantastic job. But you get, all of these places are other points of entry where you could get influenced by other things.
True. That means I'm not going to ask Bokat, how did you spoil?
Who told you I spoiled?
I don't know. You see, from the university, I've always known that you always had a passion for men.
Yeah.
Right? You held Heroes Conference, even though I did not attend one.
I only had only one.
Only one, you see.
Other ones were later years.
Yeah. I know you had, and I knew some of my friends were part of your team.
Yeah.
Right? So it's something. Many times when I see people have like passions, concerning particular areas, maybe someone has maybe a passion concerning women, or someone has a passion concerning men, they've probably gone through something
absolutely
that makes them understand or have empathy towards that area like no one else would. So for you, what was it?
Yeah, for me, unlike Sam's excellent, perfect upbringing, mine was very, very different because I grew up in a village, actually.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was born in a village. Boy, Noron, Akwa Ibom State. So, growing up, because we had my family around. We had a very large family, actually. But because of how large we were, I didn't really know my dad personally. Right? I think it was at the age of 7 or 8 that I began to kind of like be close to him because he had so many children. So my dad never took me to church. We never went to church together, ever. My mom was the one that took us. We had an incredible, interesting childhood. So I never really had like an oversight in terms of dad and son relationship and things like that. I didn't know what that was because we're more like with my mom all the time. And so it was at the age of 8, after my mom passed away, at the age of 8, that my eldest brother came and took us to Lagos, and I stayed there for a while. Now while we were there, so I just never had that.
So you don't like any form of identity at that point.
Father figure, nothing like that. Never had that. I don't remember anything like that. But the thing is, I saw the effect of that on my life, in the sense that yes, I was a good boy, but I wish I had some corrections, some level of oversight. I never had that. So my brother was doing the best he could. He would go out to work, and he was a very hardworking guy. In fact, he influenced my work ethic because he was a very hardworking guy. But there were things I wish I could talk to somebody about, struggles I had as a young man. Questions about,
about sex, women.
Yeah, women, everything. Because the thing is, the only thing I know is that my dad was a very, very good-looking guy. So he was very attractive personally. So
Mm.
he kind of like passed that on.
What's that?
Humble brag.
You know?
Yeah. So anyway, but lots of ladies coming in, back and forth. But I also had, at certain time I had some abuse in my childhood as well. Sexual abuse from aunties and stuff like that. So that kind of like formed my mindset. Like women are meant to be used and thrown away.
Oh wow.
That's what I thought about ladies when I was very young. Should just be used and just throw them away. But that continued for a very long time, almost like to the age of 16. I was very strong in secondary school, and all those kind of things. But that mindset, I thought to myself, because I saw my uncles, some of them had the way they were, and the way their lives were turning. They were all players, not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
They were doing their thing, and then I just saw the way their lives were going. I was like, Paul, make a decision. You're either going to go on this same route, and it's where you're going to end up, or you better sit up and change your life. Then when I made that decision, another issue came up. How was I going to do that? There were nobody to talk to. I would go on to meet some amazing men that I actually really admired, that were like fathers. I had a great family. And I would say, I want to just come be around you. I don't mind not I can wash your car, I can do your stuff, I can clean your house. I don't care. I just want to be around an environment with a healthy family. Because I felt beyond just reading, beyond just listening to,
you need to observe.
You need to actually have your eyes, because I've seen so much.
Yes.
I wanted to see differently. But all the men I met were very busy, and you can't blame them. You have to fend for their families. You really can't blame them. So, and I thought to myself that if I was having this same problem, then there must be so many other young men that have the same challenges.
Yeah.
And so in school, there were times when I would see a young man, because I study psychology. So in our department, sometimes we'll deal with actual cases. My lecturer would have a case and we invite some of us to join him and do those things. And I'll see some young guys, their fathers are pastors, but they are in heavy addiction issues.
Yeah.
And then I'll see some other young guys that in school they're trying to be better, but when they get back home,
It just comes down.
Because their parents are, I saw about that guy. His father, when he came to pick him up, I said, "Oh, this guy." like a gangster. The guy was just, was crazy. So like, if I was having this issue, then there must be so many young men have the same issue. And that's what made me say, because the way I grew up with the mentality of, I don't have to wait for someone to do something for me. I don't have to wait for someone to open a door for me to get in. If a door is not available, create one. Do it yourself.
Yeah.
So if there were no men avenues for guys to come around and, have these conversations, I felt I should do it. So I went to some people and they were like, okay, it's a nice idea, but they would not do anything about it. And I felt I should do it myself. And that's what actually made me, come up with the idea. But I felt because we're having so many avenues for ladies, but hardly anything for men.
Yeah, everything is about ladies.
That's because we don't talk, we don't communicate, we don't have avenues.
Yeah, I think it's a major challenge, right?
Yeah.
Where you see that the way men kind of unload, or the way men kind of unload is different.
Yeah.
And then sometimes often misunderstood. So
Absolutely.
Sometimes, because one of my bigger challenges is that sometimes when we say stuff like, "Oh, we see so many avenues for men," and what about the men? What about the men? Yeah, I understand it from an institutional.
For women, you mean?
Yeah, for women, right? But what about it? What about the men? I understand the challenge from an institutional perspective.
Yeah.
Where, let's say we are talking about schools, how men learn in schools, in the sense that it's more tailored for women learn better in a structured environment than men. There are papers. I think I always recommend Matthews' books of Boys and Men. It's a really good book. And several other ways in which the society, is structured in such a way that it's more suitable for women in that way. But I'm also very, very concerned in such a way that we don't create a context in which we entirely dismiss the unique ways in which men get by in the world today. So for example, what podcast mentioned is very, very great, and creating that platform is good, awesome, and it creates an avenue for us to deal with men intentionally in a unique way. So I was having a joke. Let me remember this thing. So somebody said something once that, if you wanted to deal with, we had an event for women. When there's this certain avenue, this certain atmosphere you have to create.
For them to say Abba said,
and things that that comfort, yeah. But one of my friends was not like, man, if you want to get men to open up, put them in an activity setting, get them to go hike. And the funny thing, one of my favorite memories since I moved to Abuja was one December where we all hung out and went to play games. It was such a cool experience. I mean, people were just talking, flowing and things like that. But naturally, it becomes obvious that these contexts are different. And in every way, men use jokes to also deal with things in ways in which women definitely can't handle. Because a caustic joke now like this, oh my God.
I think it's because the thing is, for us men, actually, like a lot of us did not really grow up learning how to communicate.
Yeah.
Really communicate your thoughts, your emotions, whatever, because we always had that mentality of you're a man. So it's always action that actually spoke louder for us. Yes, we communicate maybe at the same level as women do, but through a different channel of communication. They communicate with words, people communicate with other things. So for me, what I thought about was, like when I had the first Heroes conference, I had about almost 400 guys that showed up for the first one. They flew up to the gallery. At a point, we had to tell shut the cameras because it was getting very intense, man. Guys were talking. Also, guys were even crying. We were like, nobody ever told them that. So we just like what you talked about activities. It's kind of like break the ice, make it more comfortable for us to be able to communicate and all that. So, but I feel like so I also feel like we just need to be able to get past those walls that have in a way stop you from communicating or knowing what to do or what to say.
End of 2020, I experienced a men's conference. Not like a men's conference, like it was a meeting that Pastor Joshua Kesena, then just Joshua Kesena, he held. And it was for men. And he spoke about everything from, in fact, one of the most notable things he talked about was sex. Right? And how, because men have not been taught, or married men.
Why are you pointing to me?
Because married men. No, now.
I don't want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because married men.
So is your podcast. I cannot abuse you.
I have to honor you, sir.
I cannot abuse you back. Because now, what I wanted to say is that's why you are seeing me.
God, please.
But I didn't mean to say that.
Take that from the problem.
He will come back. So what was I to say? So because there is this gap between what married men know and what single men know, right? So because of that, there is a gap of we don't know what sex should be and what it should not be. So for a lot of men, we did not sit down with our fathers to ask or for them to tell, okay, this is what sex is. This is what sex is not. And for many people, they learned sex from either their friends or from the screen, watching pornography.
I think we haven't going too far, actually, because this is the thing. Ladies generally, right?
Yeah.
There are so many avenues of those kinds of conversations.
Yes.
Beyond just say, but what it actually means to be a person. You look at ladies, because you have your grandmother and your mothers are telling you things about life and all of that. But how many times do we talk about life generally?
Yeah.
How many times do you have your father sit down with you and just tell you about life, about what it means to be a man? A lot of times you have to figure it out on your own.
Yes.
Right? Some of us were launched They just had you in the world because they paid your fees and everything, but they just expect you to know what is right to be done.
I think there's this overarching understanding of how a man should survive in the world that is just kind of baked in, and you just born.
They expect you to
I
just know what to do.
Me and my dad were pretty close, right?
Yeah.
But I think in all of our closeness, I've only ever had a conversation about women with him once. Right? I mean, you know how crazy that is.
The conversation I've had with my father about women is, Emeka, what you get married to is who you stay with for the rest of your life. This is the way he gave me the proverb. He said, I'm telling you, this is the way he gave me the proverb. He said, a person that takes cold water and pours on himself, he will not shout or cry. That's I don't know, it was in Igbo, it was a proverb in Igbo. Right? He won't cry that it was another person that gave it to him because he poured the water on himself, so he will endure it. So if you get married to a woman that cannot cook, Emeka, right? You and her will learn how to cook in her marriage. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the only advice I know about women.
Honestly,
so you're just imagine.
You know, there was no concept, no understanding of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even another funny thing that I always say it this way, that I am pretty lucky in the sense that I have like a closeness with my parents.
Yeah.
I didn't get into any relationship with any female until I was with any girl till I was in the third year of my university.
You're early now. So you're telling me that Mr. Samuel Ajayi, you're telling me that you didn't play around.
Oh,
the devil did not play with you.
So let me put it. Let me
make a mess of you.
No, so okay, let me put the context this way. You see, when I was like 11 or 12, while I was still young, I can't remember the particular age, 11 or 12, while I was still young, in our house and everything, we had a lot of young people, older people. My first sexual experience was with an older person at that particular age.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't in any relationship that was officially a relationship per se until the time that I mentioned when it was my third year in university. Mm-hmm. By the standards that were around me, that was pretty late, pretty late. All the examples that I had, that was pretty late. I was the saint in quotes. I hope you guys get what I mean.
Yeah.
But you see, it didn't change the fact that, that previous experience was, of course, in the back of my mind.
Course.
And then my first relationship was when I was in the third year of university. And it was pretty standard relationship, standard, met in church, which is very, very interesting because I don't think I've ever dated anybody I didn't meet in church. Which sometimes kind of is funny and it's also kind of true because some of these experiences happen not just to people outside in the world, in quotes.
And it's also happening in church because we don't talk about it.
So met someone sort of like a long Christian friends. Like, oh yeah, Christian. Oh yeah, Christian. Things like that. It didn't mean that the relationship wasn't physical. We didn't have sex, but it was physical in a way. And then
it was physical. I'm a new convert.
You're too innocent.
What is my physical?
Physical.
Let me tell you, basic university students, I was discipling one of them. I'm so sorry for continuation. I was discipling one of them. And she said, sir, I and my boyfriend, we made out. I said, what did you mean? What do you mean we made out?
Oh, yeah, made out.
She said, I said, is it that you kissed? She said, no, it's not kiss. It's something more than that. I said, okay, is it that you had sex? It's not up to sex, but it's something less than that. See, so I don't know anything.
As somebody that grew up watching a lot of teen movies, I think when she made out, I think I can't understand exactly what it is.
Everything else,
not
everything else,
Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
So that was what I meant specifically when I meant physical. And funny thing, the relationship ended because of that particular thing. Because thank God, I'm a child of God. Yeah. So the relationship ended because of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into another relationship until like 3 years later. Right. Now, this relationship again, we met in church. But, the experiences in that particular relationship kind of shaped my outlook about life. I've never in my life been a ladies person. I don't actively sought or seek relationship with the opposite sex. I'm pretty content with being on my own, And so because of that, there are some certain values that accomplishes that, things like, one woman person, one person. So, but in the context of that, you really didn't understand some of your values. If your values are not really strong, you can be a one woman person and you will go through a lot.
Absolutely.
A lot. And I went through a lot.
I don't understand. So I'm so sorry. I'm so innocent. What I mean, I'm innocently ignorant on what you mean by you. Is it like you went through like breakup or?
Not just breakups, right? Of course, the relationship was didn't honor God in the sense that we had sex a lot. We didn't just have sex.
Emphasis a lot.
A lot. God have it. Mr. Ajayi, please.
Are you ready for this?
So, we had sex during the relationship, which didn't honor God in that sense. And there were a couple of other things that also occurred in that relationship. Again, looking back at it now, I could see exactly why, within that context, if there had been a way, proper mentorship along the way,
absolutely,
that wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely. For instance,
because, some things happen, so a few years down the line, right, I met a man, man was had pretty gotten to the peak of his career, he was a big man, gone everywhere, so, he met me, and then he met my ex then now, and we're talking one of those days, and, one of those days we're having a conversation, and she wasn't there, and she just turned to me and said, said something, said, like, along the line of, I really don't think this relationship is good for you. And the funny thing is,
and nobody had ever said that to you.
Nobody had ever mentioned that, in a direct way that I could understand, right? Even your friends. And again, that's the thing, right? You can have male friends that can see you in a way. I don't know how it works, but it seems to be like when you and a person are on the same level, there's a way you can look at there's a way you look at them, and because both of you are still figuring things out, there's a level of advice they can't give you because they don't have experience.
Exactly. I always say what young men really need is actually some level of mentorship, actually. What we actually need, to be honest. Because a lot of things could have been avoided if you had just had someone to actually give the right advice or something. For instance, I had this lady back in school. Fantastic lady, phenomenal lady. So one of the best.
CDS.
Sorry?
CDS.
Yes.
They wouldn't know what we're talking about, so forget about it.
They wouldn't know.
They called us a power couple back in school. Right? And our mom even told me, was like, Paul, please, whatever you do, make sure that this girl finishes with the first class. That's her dream. That's what she wants to be proud of when she's done goes done school. So we actually both finished on the first class, both of us actually. Because I was trying to make sure that no matter what happens, people were saying that if you're with a babe in school, it's going to affect your grades. They were like, we're damn to prove them wrong. So we're reading at least every week. We are together reading, not just only talking. But the thing is, during that time, I began to experience some changes personally as a guy, changes in desires and things like that, emotional needs. Because you can be with someone to a point where
these words are really spiritual. What do you mean by desires?
Okay, for instance, at a point I just wanted to be alone.
Oh.
I didn't want to have any because I had lost my dad at that time. That was I'd lost my dad. That's our third year of being
Can you come
together.
closer?
Our third year of being together, I had lost my dad at that time. And so at the point, I just didn't want to have anybody in my space because I didn't really grieve well, when that happened. And so when she would call me, I was staying in Enugu while she was in Lagos at that time. Whenever she would call me, I just didn't want to pick a call. The way can get so angry, you don't want to just talk. And I wasn't crying, but it was
Pent up energy.
Yeah, so when that happened over time, then when I came back to school, I just wasn't necessarily feeling her anymore. So I didn't know that a point will come when you're with someone that you no longer actually feel like you want to be with them. Like it's just a normal phase. That phase will pass. So I just felt like, if you don't no longer feel anything, but that means nothing is there anymore. So just move. And then I don't waste time. I just once I say I'm done, I just move. So if I had the right someone to talk to say, what, I'm having this experience. What do you think I should do? I just feel like, well, you have to move, just move. And then she would beg. She would come and, what's happening? Should we go for therapy? I said, I'm not my therapist now. What are you doing therapy for? So let's go and see a counselor. A counselor for what? I'm a man of wisdom. Let me counsel you. So the thing is, because of that, that's one of the things I actually really regret till now, because that really, I just didn't,
You made God's daughter beg you.
She begged tired. So she's like, what did I do? And I think she didn't do anything. And I felt like she was good, made me irritated, like, sometimes what attracts you irritates you if you're not careful. If you don't put in the right structure, that the right structure of engagement, So I just like, what? So anyway, so that happened. So the thing is, and so many other things that happened along the way as well that probably would have been avoided. I didn't have to experience those things in that way to now learn right there. Probably should have had the right mentorship. There's some things I should experience myself. That's the truth. That's the honest truth. But I feel like, because
there's some things you should have been told, like,
because when you're young, you think you have all this time, all the energy in this world, all the time you can make mistakes and then get back up again, all those things. But a lot of times there are stages where some things you make some mistakes that you really can't recover from, and then it takes mercy to actually recover from those things later in life. But that's where the place of mentorship, because if you have been mentored rightly in that area, probably you've already learned from their own mistakes and then know what to avoid. Yes, experience you can have a bad experience, but it doesn't have to be your own experience that should be a bad experience. True. You can learn from somebody else. So that's the place I feel like we're not really doing a good job in that. I feel like the guys should know what to do. And honestly, ladies expect you to know, because you ought to lead. As a guy, you ought to be the one to lead.
I mean, see, you just hit on a very important point. I think, like, many times, right, if you listen to women talk about men and complain about men today, one of the primary things you keep hearing is that they don't seem to know they don't seem to be as well prepared as men as they should be. Generally today.
Absolutely.
And the difference is that there's a disparity in training.
Yeah.
And it shows for.
Absolutely.
Like, it is, in fact, if a woman is born today, a girl is born today, by the time she's 6, they already take it out to the kids. This is how you should work. This is how you should prepare. This is how your room must look.
She's telling you about like, gown already. What she wants to wear in the
this is how you. So there's this like abundance. Men are more like, they just exist. Go to school, come back. You probably find, and then when both parties kind of meet, you find one party severely behind in everything, and it shows, right? And it becomes like you would see people just complain. Like I have friends, female friends who be in relationships and be like, this guy doesn't seem to know doesn't seem to know how to behave. Like, doesn't mean like he's not a good guy. Generally, like, he's kind, he's this one, he's that one, but he doesn't know how to behave. I'm asking him for this one, and he's saying, and he's talking this way. Doesn't even know how to care for people. I mean,
someone said this way: when ladies are growing up as children, as girls, you are given toys to play with. You are playing with baby dolls. You are dressing up baby their hair and everything with their clothes and everything. But when guys are growing up, you're giving them
Guns.
Red Power Rangers,
Guns.
you're giving them guns. So ladies play with relationships, guys play with power. So they already are learning the rudiments of interactions, communications, and everything. They're teaching you how to, but guys, you are trained to be competitive. You are trained with, the power tools, just knowing exactly when we meet or talking about, for instance, what's in your account, what's my account, I talk about sports, whatever. We don't necessarily get into nitty-gritty of conversations of what's actually really happening in the hospital. So when we now meet, what do you expect? There's some level of intentionality in the guy to say, you know what, I want to take myself seriously and then take these things seriously. And the thing is, it's really, that's something that a father is supposed to pass on easily. And right now, to be honest, we now have to take it up and say, you know what, yes, I didn't get it, but I must actually learn it and then be humble enough to know what, I don't know it. I actually really need to learn it because I'm going to have to be the one to now pass it on to my boys, right? Personally, I can't wait to have a son because already I have a nephew, he's about 16 years old now, my nephew, and we talk about everything. So it's my experiment.
I get
so what we talk about, you'll be shocked. We talk about so many things. I'm done talking and I start crying. I wish someone said this to me when I was coming. Because you ask me things about, for instance, he likes this girl in school, doesn't know what to do. I'm like, just go and say hi to her. That's all, but don't do anything stupid. It feels like they want to go out for this, just finish their exams.
No, nobody told me I was in SS1.
They finished
my
their
first
exams.
crush, her name is Noye. God. I can't forget. We came back from extension, SS3. I saw everybody just grown up. What's going on? Why is Noye entering my eye? Just like that. She passed me and I froze. She said, "Hi, Emeka." I said, words were not coming out.
Thankfully, I didn't have that experience. I went to a boys only.
Fine boy like me.
You're following your own hand.
But I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
Right? There's this indoctrination, and first, I believe that right now, a lot of people are being trained up. You no longer see differences in character as much as you would have seen in the last 30 years, right? In the past generation, probably our generation, in the sense that if you would bring 3 children here, they would exhibit 3 different characters, right? Nowadays, you no longer see so many differences in character, and I believe it's because they are being trained by one party, and that is their phone, right? So they are turning. I mean, this reason I'm saying all of this is because a lot of men look at women in a particular kind of light. I'm not talking about misogyny. I'm talking about what an addiction does to men.
Yeah.
Right? And they suffer in a relationship because of the way they look at the woman.
Yeah.
I've had cases where I talk to somebody and he's dealing with pornography and masturbation, and I'm like, hey, I don't think you should get into a relationship. I think you should work on that because
Absolutely.
First, I also believe that dealing with pornography and masturbation there's a point that okay, your identity is unknown, and because your identity is unknown, there's a lot of issues there. But it also means that you're looking at women in a certain light that you're not meant to be looking at them, right? And for me, I always ask the question of, when I see quality men, I'm always ask the question of, how did you come out from, or did you ever have that? Because you told me, there was a point in your life where you said, women just use them, and just some men really think that, okay, just have a woman at home so that you're looked at as a responsible man. I mean, women, I don't know, we just use them, dump them, or keep them as a trophy. How did you escape that mentality? How did it work,
Okay, this is a very, very interesting question, because I believe that personally, I've always had this mindset. My own mindset was kind of pretty different, because I always say my grandmother and my mom, my grandmother especially, has a very strong influence on how I was raised. So by virtue of that, I saw women as people to be cared for. So I saw women as people to be cared for. So, and it influenced the way I approach women ever since I growing up and things like that. So I didn't have, it has never been something that I struggled with, right? Now, but on the other hand, as a man, you have other needs that start to show up as you grow up. Now, so for example, there are logics or investments, the emotional investments that you make, that when those emotional investments break up, they can send you reeling and unsure. Right. So some people deal with that. So sometimes I really think that it's a better thing to first understand the origin of the problem, of the concept, right? Because many people walk into addictions for different reasons.
Yeah.
Some people it's not that, because some people it's not, for some people it's a bid for connection.
Yeah.
Which is also like an issue.
Yeah, so it's a bit of connection. Some people get out of relationships, they got into relationship, they didn't have any issue with masturbation, with pornography, and then maybe the relationship ended badly, and suddenly masturbation or pornography becomes an outlet.
Yeah.
You know, that they have to, how to deal with that. Like, oh yeah, this is how I handle this. This is how I deal with it. And for me personally, that was my own way of dealing with it. The relationship was a long one, and I'd invested myself, everything into that relationship, mentally, physically, money wise, and I was convinced that relationship was going to be my last relationship.
Yeah.
And
that's
then
my wife.
I see your vision.
Yeah.
God
and then
told me that my wife.
And then the relationship ended.
Yeah.
You get. And I'm reeling. And then masturbation and pornography became an outlet.
Yeah.
Right. So which is that, okay, I had to,
because you had already exposed yourself in the way you're not meant to expose yourself in the relationship.
So it was an investment. It's like you invested. Again, which is why I say it's very, very important to have mentorship. Because sometimes you can compromise your values in the sense that you're thinking to yourself that this is it. You can admit and say you want to compromise your values a bit. And this doesn't just mean men or women alone. I mean, men and women do that all the time. The truth of the matter is that you're taking, your values are a part of yourself.
Yeah.
And, losing that part, if something goes wrong, right, you would struggle with your personal identity. Because you suddenly now start thinking, who am I again? Because this thing that used to define me no longer defines me.
Absolutely. It's so true. I like how you said that, because the thing is that every relationship you get into takes something from you. Whenever you meet someone, then you leave them or they leave you, they go with a part of you.
Yes.
And you go with a part of them as well. So it takes a while. That's why it's advice that if you break up someone, take some time out to just heal, right? So, because you spend your time together, you spent, a lot of exchanges went on. Like for me, as hard guys, I was that.
Talk to us.
Jesus. So, she broke up with me later that time.
She broke up with you, a whole podcast.
Not that one. Not the one in school.
No, anybody. She broke up with you.
A whole podcast. Anyway, so broke up with me, and then I first went and laid down on my bed. I laid down and slept for 2 days. Like I didn't eat for 2 days. I have not fasted for 2 days. For God, you never take God 1 days. Even one day I'll be like, Jesus, and this time just be going fast. But I laid down my bed and slept. The first day I would wake up just like eat myself, eat myself, and come back. I had no appetite for food for 2 days. I was just there. So one day I was like, I'm on the girl, don't go now. So the thing is, like when you talk about identity, that's such a very valid thing, because for men we often think that it is what we do that defines us, or what we have. most thing to possess, like her money and whatever. So you want to go make money, and then you can actually be impress the lady and stuff, because you feel like by she liking you or she being with you in a way kind of like makes you feel seen.
Validation for what you already have.
Yeah.
You know,
so you may not necessarily buy things for yourself.
That's
You
the one.
want to buy for her, and just
Yeah.
because her happiness in a way makes you feel like you are important, you are seen.
Never underestimate the power of a strong breakup in making a man.
Hey.
Seriously.
Line.
Seriously. Seriously. Let me tell you something. I've had friends
Correct.
whose lives is the way it is today because of a strong rejection from a woman.
But then you cannot also say that
Because what they are trying to do is, in their mind, they are struggling to meet up with that image of that person that said no, to be worthy of that acceptance.
Exactly.
And that struggle for acceptance.
You mean after the breakup, they now start struggling to still be accepted by that person and they become better? Is that what I was trying to say?
Yeah. So not exactly, right? Because when you say, oh, and someone says no to you, experiences rejection, internally they are thinking to themselves, it's because they don't meet up.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, the greatest gift you can give to anyone is your authentic self. Because if you're not yourself, right, you're living only to please someone
else.
Yes.
Only to make them happy. A time comes that, of course, it's obvious, and they get irritated anyway.
Yeah.
If there is someone and then you're obsessed with them all the time, it's them, and you never in any way take care of yourself, it gets irritating and annoying, right? But when you invest in yourself, you take care of yourself. Like I always say, the Bible didn't say love your neighbor. It didn't just say love your neighbor, period. It said love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, the benchmark for loving your neighbor should be how you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love your neighbor, right? So I shouldn't be asking you, do you love me? I should ask you, do you love yourself? Now, that is not selfishness, right? That's not self-centeredness. But however, it is, because if I don't prioritize...
This is the way you look at us, what you just said. Someone will look at that, eventually like, oh, I need self-love. Like all ladies are doing now, like I need self-love, before.
There's a balance to
there's
that.
always a balance.
If you really don't love yourself,
yeah,
right, you will always want company all the time for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Like you can't stand being by yourself.
Alone.
Like you're always,
solitude. You can't stand that.
You're in one crazy relationship today. You now jump to the next one tomorrow because you can't just stand that moment of isolation. I say it this way. It's meant to be like,
I call it solitude.
Yeah, it's meant to be a temporary vacation, but not permanent location. You have to isolate so you can become relevant when you come and meet people.
Yes.
Right, but the thing is, when you really can't stand your own company, nobody really can love you if you don't love yourself.
Because I think primarily
you become such an emotional milking thing. You're constantly draining people out. You're wondering why nobody wants to be around, because you're always all the time milking people out. Because
but if you're primarily, I think it comes from it's consistently seeking external validation.
Absolutely. And it happens to guys on a broad scale.
And we don't see
crazy.
We only see the women part, because when it happens to women, we always say, oh, she has daddy issues. But we don't see when it comes to men that a guy is having 2-3 women,
God,
and they'll not jump again, leave this girl.
Because
they don't have
self-esteem issues. Yeah, I'm seriously, there are people today, again, they say, oh, this person, this guy, because, and for a guy, it's easier to call pathologies that happens to men, to call it star, like you're calling it as something to be proud of.
Yeah, like
so you're looking at someone that has 3 women now, like bad guy. But seriously, that person has validation issues, right? You can easily tell this person has a psychological issue that they're dealing with.
And it's not just young men, even older men.
Even older men too.
It's man that is 60 years pursuing a little girl, because it's that sense of, okay, he's able to chase a woman, and then when he gets her, it makes him feel like, oh man, I'm still in my
He's still working,
he's still there.
But it's actually a reflection of dysfunction, because really, if you're secure in who you were,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what you can. Whether somebody comes in, I'm not saying you shouldn't, of course, a real man should love the people around him. But the thing is this: if you don't take care of you, right? If you don't prioritize yourself in the sense of, I don't mean in the extreme way now, but I mean in the
Like
sense of
what comes into
investing
you,
in
why
yourself.
invest?
Yeah.
You can't invest.
What are you going to give? What
Yeah.
are you going to really feed other people with?
Mhm.
What are you going to really? Are you going to lead if you have not really started, if you actually not followed first?
There's a
Right?
story I'm remembering, right? I just remember there's a friend, right? There's a friend. Something happened to him. I didn't know him then. Something happened to him when we were having a conversation.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really something I had to think about. He dated this lady for a long time.
Yeah.
And after they broke up, something happened. I think he saw her. Okay, are we? He saw her like kiss someone else or something like that. Something like that. And what happened later on? They broke up, and that was the first time he slept with somebody. Like because of the heartbreak, you know, he took himself and he had his first sex. I don't know whether it was a prostitute or just somebody random that was available for him. And when we were talking, what just registered like to me was, oh, the relationship was his identity and he lost it.
Yeah.
Does it happen like a lot of? Is it something you've seen a lot of? Is it something you
It's
experience?
something I've experienced
several times.
experienced that a lot. And again,
Yeah.
you know, I was mentioning the other time that was I say triggers for addictions vary, right? And I mentioned it the other time. That was the trigger for my
Your own addiction.
yeah, because the relationship ended and suddenly I had a loss of identity.
Yeah.
And that loss of identity meant that it had to have an outlet.
Absolutely.
And that outlet came from something else. You know, again, I always say it this way. It takes time when you recover that your identity and then realize that, okay, yes, it's easier now to spot it when you're coming. It's easier to spot it and say, okay, so this is how it happens.
Yeah.
Which is why I really think that the primary thing that a person or a man should get first is an understanding of their identity.
Absolutely. For me, like, you know, like it's so accurate. For me, actually, because I always struggle with that sense of acceptance growing up. I actually didn't know that was an issue until like I grew up later and I realized. So, and I had terrible self-esteem issues. Terrible. You know.
Same.
And when I got into school, when I got during
You know the interesting, sorry to cut short. You know the interesting thing? You mentioned I had serious self-esteem issues. You mentioned I had
the same.
serious. Do you know that on the outside, right, when you're talking to people, you'd never guess.
You can never, ever.
You know
never.
I read a lot of John C. Maxwell's books on self-esteem and confidence, and the Bible. First, Bible primarily for me to work on my self-esteem.
Absolutely,
it's crazy.
Absolutely.
I've seen people that you would never expect.
You can never guess.
That you'd
and
say,
the thing is, it manifests itself in different ways. For some people, it manifests as a desire to want to prove something to people all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe, by what you have, your cars or whatever. There's always that need to want to be seen. Wherever. For me, when I broke up with me, that girl's right. She told me to my face. I was like, so why are you breaking up? She said, Paul, you're not a leader.
Whoosh.
You can't lead me.
Blood of Jesus, I'll cry. I would cry.
See, and she's a very, very astute, very intelligent lady, intellectually sound. And I was being like, come on, I'm a sound guy, back in school now. So she said, Paul, you're not a leader, you can't lead me.
Hey.
When she said, I just went just
my chest.
About my life.
I'm sorry for that one.
But the thing she was right, because I was expecting her to feel important. So I did everything. Like, I was serving in Gombe State at that time. I served for you that served in Abuja. You're not serving anything. But I served in Gombe, under the sun and rain, actual sun, actual rain. So the thing is, I was in the town while she was like 3 hours from where I was, believe, because we had met, before then. We were in the same camp, but now we went to different places. So, so I would have to, like every weekend, I would leave my place and travel 3 hours journey to see her. And I'll go and then help her, I'll paint the wall, I'll do stuff for her, I would do everything. Like, I'll be there. I was always there. I was always available. She'll call me anytime. I will be, if you say, Paul, I must travel like my meter. So I had no life of my own, and then in a way, because I had no life of my own, I was meant to lead her to have something I'm going for that can actually bring her along. But I was literally looking to her
our own vision,
for my own validation, working on her stuff all the time, because I wanted her to accept me by all means possible. And then that just, so the more I pursued, the more it kept going far away. But because generally as men, we are meant to actually lead, I think all the time, one of the reasons I've had these debates all the time with, a lot of incredible ladies, a lot of smart ladies, phenomenal ladies, CEOs and all that. And one of the reasons, the underlying, while men complain about feminism and all those things, the underlying reason why ladies are wanting what they're clamoring for is because there are hardly men who are leading. And when I say leading, I mean in all contexts. Like, for instance, imagine a man married to a woman, right? She's the one, beyond having a child, she's not being the one fending for the family, and assuming, and then you're not.
And she's now playing the
you're
game.
now saying I'm a man.
She's now taking
you
the
know what I'm saying?
The funny thing,
I'm not like it's completely, but a lot of times, a lot of men have not stepped into the role of being able to lead. And I'm not saying by imposing whatever. I'm simply mean by giving a sense of direction and vision. So when there's no
not necessarily by being the highest paying.
Let me give you a punchline now. When there's no vision, there's division. But anyway,
that's like a living faith pastor. Like what's that?
But the point is, the thing is, the underlining thing that women are crying for is men that will take responsibility, men that will lead, right? And when that's, for instance, I was in a debate, an all Nigerian university debate in championship one time, and then we're preparing for it, and so we're debating about feminism and all that. So I saw the lady, and I was talking to her, and we're basically the whole school, and then at a point, I now said to the lady, you're supporting feminism because you have daddy issues. That's why.
Yeah.
And she began crying.
Oh my God.
Because that style of debating was always brutal. Always very brutal. If you find something about it, you must finish you, destroy you right there on the stage.
That is rap now.
If you have daddy issues, that's why. There was no father available for you. That's why.
Lily.
And then she now said, she began crying on stage.
It's real now.
Almost all the ladies that are clamoring for equality, a lot of times because either that was absent or they've had terrible experiences that if they had, I say it all the time to ladies, most ladies did not really hear a man talk. They heard a man complain, they heard a man moan during sex, but never really had a man talk. So what they know about men is either from a hurtful experience or from fellow women. Almost all the books out there about men are written by women.
Yes.
About 95%. They tell you what men do, what men think, but they don't really understand exactly why men do what they do. That's why I felt need to write my book, because I felt like I was seeing a lot of things being said, but they were not really striking the real core of the issues. That, see, I've had ladies that, a woman about 60 years old, which I looked at once, I was saying that, which read my book. It's a place that says, so I'm not just tell me.
We should have got your book right here.
You have brought it here.
Yeah, like just put it here so
I have a copy in my car. Anyway. So she said, she began crying. She's about 62 years old. She said she raised a child. He's now 30 years old right now. And the boy actually hates her because he feels she denied him of his childhood, of being around his father. Because for her, she was hurt by the man, and she felt like punishing him also means to deprive him from seeing his son.
Yeah.
But she didn't know what impact that was having on the boy, because a man may not have made a good husband, doesn't mean he can be a good father. right? And what every young man needs is access to his father. No matter how wonderful a woman is, no matter how wonderful a mother is, she's doing this and doing that. There's one
No matter
element
how disciplined she can be.
no matter how she can be, there's one element she can never understand.
Never, yeah.
And that is what it means to be a man.
Can I say something because of time?
Yeah.
Right? Because of time, I want us to like take 5 minutes each to see how, with all of the things that we had experienced or we have experienced, everything, the struggle, the tussle of being a man, how did it happen for you? Was it when you met Christ? What kind of environment did you put in place for you to come out of the rut that you found yourself in? What were the books you read? I'm so sure men are listening, right? And they're like, how do these guys do it? How did they come here? How did they get here? 5 minutes each. Let's go.
That's very interesting. I think I operated from, I want to say it this way, that Jesus saves my life. Saved my life. I've had a very good, walk with God. Believed God at a young, went to church at a young age. Believed God for real. Early, and at the same time, didn't mean I didn't have contradictory experiences. But then I've always noticed that around the time that when it happened was because there was a lack of connection to God.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did that really helped was retracing that spiritual walk and taking it very seriously. Studying, praying, and one of the things that happened from there was an understanding of your own personal identity as tied to God, because that's very key. So, and then the next thing that happens about that is that God puts a responsibility in your hand, a vision or something to pursue. Because once you do that, once you're chasing that, it also gives you perspective and structure. So once you start doing that consistently and you get a sense, let me tell you something. As a guy, nothing is much more clear for you than having a clear understanding of your own personal purpose. It allows you to know exactly what you want and what you are not willing to give up for it.
And you know the kind of woman that should fit into that.
You're not, and then also because of that, it also allows you to know that this is key. So walking straight with God and doing everything and focusing on that gives you an identity. When you have your identity, you have what to work with. Things like that. God told Adam in the garden, he said, till this land, take care of it, watch over it, multiply. Clarity of understanding of what to do. So it becomes easier. And even when a woman is coming in or not, you know exactly what you're about to do. And that sense of purpose is very attractive. I'm telling you, very attractive. Knowing what you want and what you're doing. Starts from there.
You give a shout out to your wife. It was not meant to be a relationship podcast, but it just turned out to be a relationship podcast.
Yeah, it is. And on books, I really say that if you're a man, I really think that you should, I really think you should read Of Men and Boys. It's a really good book.
By who?
Matt Reeves. It's a really good book. If you're talking about men, I think it's a really good book, because the truth of it is that there are not a lot of books that goes deep about men. Most books talk at men.
From mine, sure.
Yeah.
You're not joking.
Yeah, I don't want to. I want to say that most books talk at men.
Yeah.
They don't talk to men.
Yeah.
Because it's the difference. A
Absolutely.
person can write about how men can be this one,
Mm-hmm.
but he's just talking at them. You're not talking to men.
Okay. Let's get 5 minutes or 3 minutes.
First of all, get my book, How to Be a Man.
Yes.
Anyway, but what's the question again, sir?
Question. What did I ask? I asked.
How did you start to?
Yeah, how was your discovery when it comes to how did you come out? What were the environments you put in place? The books you read? How did you come out from that mentality, those addictions, everything? If you had actually,
For me, it started by me first of all being honest with myself.
Yeah.
That where I was heading by reason of my choices wasn't Okay. So for me, it started by, me being honest with myself, saying to myself that, going by how far I was going and where I was going, I wasn't going to end up where I think I would want to be proud of later in life. And a lot of self-awareness came in, of the fact of my approach to life, perspective and everything, which I felt was being really heavily influenced. And I'm very honest with myself. Very honest with myself. A lot of people can lie to themselves a whole lot. I tell myself, bro, nothing's happening. You need to make changes. I came to that point where I was saying to myself, you know what? I need to make changes. I need to change. I can't keep expecting something different and doing the exact same things daily, the addictions and anything like that, trying to impress people and all those kind of things that came up. So when I came to that point, of course, I met a friend of mine, Judah, in 2009, and he was the one that actually led me, of course, to Christ and stuff like that. We began reading a whole lot. We would visit this library somewhere in Lagos. They call it Living Water. Yeah, we would just go there and just read. I would read. But I said to myself, I just have to do whatever it takes. Just because you fall, get up, fall, get up. But I was like, I just can't continue like this. It just has to change. Whatever it has to happen. Whatever has to happen, So I got myself a mentor. I met someone like, Sam. I told him everything. I can't continue. I've read books. I've done all kinds of stuff, but it's not changing. I need help. And I had an accountability community that helped as well. So I opened myself up to help. A lot of times I feel like we can be allowed, even while we're in church, the idea of being in church, you feel like, okay, of course, God has the answers to everything, but you don't open yourself to other possible help that God has placed around you. You feel like it must just be only you and God alone. So that's the thing. It can delay your process because you have no accountability of any kind. So to me, it was honest self reflection, first of all, for me. And then, of course, making some very, very tough decisions, personally, that were hurtful. But I knew I needed to make changes in my life, right? And then take my own self seriously.
What did it look like? What do those changes look like? Like your social media, what do you say changes look like?
Even ladies generally. My approach to life generally, my approach to finance, to money, my approach to, so the things I would prioritize in my life that time. For me, I was more like, okay, because then when you really want to, you can just get them. Whatever. But like, I began to challenge how I saw women. They are not objects of pleasure, but they're actually the daughters of God. They are the daughters of a king. I was like, if I had a daughter, would I ever let a man treat them this way?
Yeah, man, 6 feet under.
Do you understand? I will finish you. So I was like, if I would not want that done to my daughter, I should have done to anybody else's daughter. So that completely changed my approach, and I began to value ladies and saw them for who they were.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. So we have come to the end of the episode. I believe we cooked.
Yes.
And
get ready
to eat. Do you understand? I don't think this is an episode a guy should listen to more than 5 times. I mean,
less than 5 times.
Less than 5 times, not more actually. Less than 5 times, you see. And if you're a lady listening to this, I'm so sure you want to send it to your boyfriend. Your boyfriend is not.
My book.
Your book. Yeah. How to Be a Man in a Crazy World, right?
By podcast.
Available on all platforms. Thank you.
Amazon, Robin Heights.
Thank you.
Barnes and Noble, whatever.
So get the book, send the podcast share the podcast, share it, please. I beg you, share it.
And you let us know. Let us know.
Let us know if you like if you love the episode. You can tag us on social media, on Instagram, right? I'm going to let you guys use your own voice now to recommend my podcast. So yeah. Okay, guys. So Redeem Podcast. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or whatever platform you're using. Look at that camera. Oh yes. Sorry. The Redeem Podcast. You can listen on any podcast platform you're using. And tell them your experience about you've listened to it before. Yes, and I've listened to this podcast. It's really good. I mean, the guests
they become vulnerable. I don't know what Emeka puts on his mind, Sha, but these people just
I hate
It's
more.
so-
How did you get
it's so-
to say this thing? Oh my God.
but yes, it's really valuable, and I think you should subscribe. If you're not subscribing, you are wrong.
I'm a good host. Oh yeah, man of God, that's camera.
If you have not subscribed to this platform, I wonder what you're doing with your life.
I
So these are very important gems. So please, by all means, subscribe to the platform, listen to this podcast over and over again, and you'll be incredibly helped. You should.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
God bless you and
God
have
bless
a
you
wonderful time. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey guys, you see, it's always hard, talking about your story. And when a lot of people come to me and say, "Hey, Mecca, I want to talk about my story," and I'm like, "Hey, are you sure? Are you sure this is what you want to do?" I mean, above all that, I hope you're able to forgive yourself. You're able to forgive others. Above all these, I also hope you're able to accept the love of Christ for you. I also hope you understand that your relationship with God is not performance based, that you are working out, you are working out the love that you already have, that He already has for you. You know, it's not performance based. He's not disappointed or proud of you depending on how you act. No, 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 no. We are loved by God, and out of that love we behave. Out of that love we act. Right? I love you guys, and see you in the next episode. If you're on Spotify, I love you to follow, and I would love you to leave a comment, a like, a review, whatever. Have a lovely day, and God bless you.